Have the Artian so that it's like the right hand count.
All right, hello everybody, welcome. Thanks for coming today. I know a lot of you in the room already, but for those that don't know, my name is Ben McClary, and I'm the community manager at the Rock Center for Entrepreneurship. So I'm going to toss things over here to Nir in a couple seconds, but and he's going to do a great job going through storytelling and how to incorporate narratives in your pitching. But before we do that, I also want to put a plug in. This is actually the perfect session to have this week, because in 2 days we have our new venture competition deadline, which is our flagship competition, pitch competition for MBA students. So that's going to be a great way to take a lot from what you learned today and apply it to your company pitching in a couple weeks here. So it is January 31st at 12 noon. So anyone who's interested in the competition, please apply. And last thing too is just, if we can put the laptops and phones away just for the session, that would be awesome to give Nir some undivided attention. So really appreciate it, and turn things over to you.
Great, thanks. Good evening. I come from Spain, so at 5 it's good afternoon. I want to tell you kind of how actually I got here. So I've been working with one founder that is a Harvard graduate. And in the alumni weekend, he pitched his idea, and the team liked it and thought maybe it will be worthwhile that I will come and share with you some of the things that I've been doing with startups. And I want to tell you briefly about myself and how actually I got to do what I do. So this is the first memory that I have from the world of art. Okay, it's Sunflower by Van Gogh. When I was 8 years old, my parents sent me to a creative course. They wanted me to do creative stuff. And after I finished this course at the age of 8, I kind of left the world of art, and I didn't come back until I was in my 20s. But as a kid, while I was 12 years old, I also had a side hustle with a friend of mine. We used to fix bikes. I was really passionate about entrepreneurship, business, technology, etc. And I had an issue. I had an issue because my parents, my society, my teachers, everyone told me, Nir Hindie, what are you? Left brain or right brain? Are you creative or analytic? You want to study engineering or you want to study art? You cannot do both. And when someone tells you you cannot do both, you feel that you are misfit. So in my 20s, I studied economics and web technologies. And in my 20s, I started to get engaged again with the arts. And in my social circle and in my professional circle, I got engaged a lot in my profession with entrepreneurs. And the more I got to know entrepreneurs and the more I got to know artists, the more I saw similarities between them. And I was amazed, how can it be that those two similar societies actually do not interact? So I embarked on a journey to try to understand how actually they can influence each other, specifically how the creative world can impact the world of business. And one day I read an article that kind of articulated what I felt. Entrepreneurs are the artists of the business world. And I often say that, in my opinion, artists and entrepreneurs have much more in common than entrepreneurs and business professionals. So my name is Nir, and I'm an Israeli that lives in Madrid in the last 11 years. I studied economics and web technologies, and while I was in a bachelor, I kind of started my first experiment with business, then another one, and another one. Not necessarily in software. Oftentimes when we think entrepreneurship, immediately we think software. And what I do today is that I try to help organizations to develop creative DNA. So if you want to think about what I do, try to think Apple, Brown, Polaroid, Beats, Disney, Pixar. All of them are companies that set creative vision and then technology, not the other way around, technology and then creative vision. And some of the things that I do, I work a lot with startups, mainly around investment readiness that goes beyond storytelling, and we can even discuss what's the difference. So I've been doing mentoring quite a lot at Harvard University, at MIT. I work with organization, ecosystem supporters, and a lot of startups, specifically from Latin America, that try to raise money from the US. So the challenge is even bigger because they are not only competing with local VCs, they need to compete in the US. So everything that I do is what I call it the intersection of imagination and execution. So what we try to do, what we will try to do, at least at the time that we have, is that I want to speak with you about pitching mindset, okay? Because one of the things that I learned working with a lot of startups is that there are certain ways of thinking and mistakes that founders tend to do that, in my own humble opinion and from my experience showed me that if you nail this way of thinking, the story will become easier, okay? And then what I want to do is to tell you some recommendations that I think can work better in the context of your startups. Obviously, it will be pretentious of me to think that in 1 hour I can just make you into founder storyteller, but at least you will learn, I hope, at least one thing, maybe more, okay? So everyone speak with you about storytelling. And you know, one of the things that I learned working with founders is it's frustrated them because everyone tell you, you need to be a storyteller. But what does it mean? How do I actually do that? And what I will try to do is to give you some advices, some ideas, some tips, how you might be able to adopt this mindset and then the application. So it's, for me, storytelling, it's a combination of mindset and a skill. And my goal, at least for today, is to expand the way you think about startup telling, okay? And the way I structure it is 7 advices. So the first part will be the mindset, the second part will be storytelling, and I structure it as 7 advices, so you will always know where we are at least at the first part, okay? So if you suffer too much, you know it's going to end. One of the things that I've noticed is that every time I speak to founders, the first thing they speak with me is the deck. But one of the first important, I cannot stress how important. Pitch is not a deck. Pitch is the way you understand what you do. And more importantly, the way you communicate. Now, I might say things that sound obvious. Trust me, it's not. Because the simple exercise that I like to do is I bring the 3 founders and I ask them, tell me which problem are you solving? Oftentimes, I will get 3 different problems that are overlapping, but not one clear problem. So knowing what you do is not that easy because it's in your mind. The question how you articulate to others in the level that they are able to understand very clearly. So the basis of everything I will talk, remember this. Pitch is not a deck. It's the way you understand what you are doing and how you communicate. Now, some of you will use for the deck slides, Google Slides, PowerPoint, Keynote, whatever you use. You have to remember one thing. Advice number 2, you are the presentation. I see founder oftentimes talk to the screen. What do I need the screen? I send it to me in an email. Don't spend my time. I can read your presentation. But when you understand that you are the presentation, you start to ask yourself, okay, if what I say is clear, do I actually present it the right way? Do the people that actually listen to me understand what I say? And again, I will reinforce. What I say sometimes sounds very obvious. I go and I see in startup competitions and I talk to founders, amazing founders. And then I tell them, pitch me the idea, and they take me into a journey of 30 minutes of torture. And they show me slides with so many text in it that I probably need 2 hours just to review the slides. When you understand that you are the presentation, the deck, the demo, the one-pager, all of these are just tools. And don't do the switch. You are the presentation, deck is the tool. And it's very important because when you think about it, how many of you, by the way, are familiar with the investor deck? Raise your hand if yes. Okay? So the investor deck, which some of you might see in 2 weeks when you will speak with Lily, it's basically kind of a common structure that we have in the startup world: problem, solution, product, how it works, market, go-to-market, business model, metrics, unit economics, scalability, competition, team, and all of this, you need to be able to pitch in 5 minutes. And trust me, it's possible. The question is if you understand again how important it is that you understand what you do and you are able to communicate it and to be crisp in the way you deliver the information. So the deck, the demo, the tool, the one-pager are just tools. You need to be able to take me for a coffee and to go through problem, solution, product, market, go to market in a conversation. Hey, Nir, you know, one of the things that I did is that, and the problem I discovered is this. And that's why we created this solution. And you know, it's so amazing how it works because today we can leverage ta-ta-ta. And the market is huge. And what is most exciting is the business model we came up with. Super conversational, super structured in a way that I can understand it very logically. The thing about startups, do we have, by the way, founders in the room or people that already started there that went beyond a bit the school that started to pitch? Yes? How often do you pitch?
Once a week.
Once a week. It will increase the moment you are actually going to raise the funds. You know why? Because numbers are very slow, very small. Oftentimes, just to give you an example, you will need to meet anywhere between 70 to 80 investors in order to raise your fund. So you all the time pitch. You pitch to your bank, you pitch to your family, you pitch to your friend, you pitch to your employee, you pitch to your investors. And the thing is that you might pitch to investors from Europe, from the US, from Mexico, depend where you are. And why this is important to understand also the landscape of the people that you pitch leads me to my third advice. One size does not fit all. And most of the founders have one deck. And they go to someone that come from the US, understand the US market, and they pitch them the Mexican market. And you oftentimes, you need to ask yourself the basic question. Who do I normally pitch to? And what is their profile? Let's assume, have you heard the term F&F? Yes?
Friends and family.
Friends and family, okay? Oftentimes you will start going to friends and family and then angel investors. Now, angel investor can be, for that matter, a dentist that's interested to invest in startup. It's a very different type of investor than a super angel that invests in startup on a regular basis. So the information that both of them will need to know is different. And the work that probably I'm telling you, and you start to think, oh my God, it's so much work. It's so much work, yes, but it's much more work to target 80 investors and to spend on each one of them at least 3 to 4 hours and then to get 80 no's. Much more frustrated. So if you actually take the time to build the pitch, and trust me, at the end, I spoke with your friend, what's your name? Ali, about agility of mind when you pitch. The moment you will practice it, you will understand how you need to pull the information to the right person. So yes, you will do the groundwork, but you want to be able to kind of target them, right? Okay? So you often need to ask yourself, what do they know? If it's someone that is not coming from the market, maybe you need to tell him the behavior, market behavior. Hey, Nir, listen, the way the solution works, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Now, before I speak with you about the market in terms of money, let me tell you some market characteristics that I think are very important for you to know. 1, 2, 3, 4. And how it looks in terms of money, the market is growing 20%, blah, 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 blah. So it's very important to understand also what you need to bring into the presentation, which lead me to advice number 4. One of the things that I've noticed is that I speak to founders and then they think about the pitch as the call that they have. Pedro gave me half an hour next week, so the pitch will happen next week. And then what they do, 5 minutes before, half an hour before, they go to the LinkedIn, check the profile of the investor, and go into the call. Let me tell you something. The pitch starts when you get the invitation for the meeting. Do your research. Who is the investor? Who did the investment in the past? Did they interview in a podcast that you can listen and create this engagement with them? And the pitch doesn't stop in the call. it's also you need to do the wrap up. Now, oftentimes what will happen? You will start a company, and trust me, it's going to be a crazy roller coaster. Your day going to look like all the time packed. So to take the time to reflect on the meeting most likely won't happen. The founders that work with me, I always tell them, 30 minutes meeting, 10 minutes you put in your calendar for reflection. Which questions did they ask you? Where do you feel you didn't answer well? What are the doubts that you felt they were raising? Let's map those things. Because if one investor asks you this, most likely another investor will ask you this. So why not be ready for that? That makes sense? At the end, you want to increase your chances. Look at it like you enter to the room with the investor like a dart. I want to be immediately in the middle. And probably the one that didn't come prepared, those are all the holes in the sides. They didn't realize actually what the investor know, yes or no. If it's an investor that came from finance background, most likely I need to have my appendix with the metrics, with the projection much more solid. And I need to be able to be ready for that. But if I have someone that came maybe from consulting with more operation background, maybe I need to be able to really nail how it's going to work. And where are the pitfalls that I might be encountering in my operation. Different investors, different needs, different solutions that you will need to give. You always need to have this agility of mind. Now, you enter to the call. What's the goal? What's the goal? You enter to the call. What's the goal? Oftentimes, founders, even logically, do you think you can raise the fund in one call? Yes or no?
No.
No. Thank you. Most of us know that. But we enter to the call and we bombard the investors with information. And we think that we increase our chance. You know what is the goal of the first call? The goal of the first call is not to get a no. The founders are cutting. They meet, like you, probably 30 a week. Now multiply it in a fund, probably 1,000 startups, 1,000 founders a year. You want to pass the first stage. I want to get to the second call. And after the second call, the third call. And after the third call, potentially term sheet. And after the term sheet, hopefully we'll sign. It's a long process. So why do I say that in the first call, you need to be super articulated. Don't try to bombard them. Don't try to bring all the information. Try to ask yourself, what do I need to do? And oftentimes, first meeting, you will get 30 minutes. That's what happened generally. Very often, you know what is the first exercise I do with founders that come work with me? I tell them, pitch me the idea like we are in a call. And then we have 30 minutes, they speak for 20, 25. They leave me with 5 minutes. Now, if I didn't speak about myself, so I have 5 minutes for Q&A. If I spoke about myself, you got probably 3 minutes of questions. Think about it differently. You need to change the metric. You need to be able to pitch less than 10 minutes. And again, if it's possible to do it in 5 minutes, it's definitely possible to do it in 10. And the moment you create this, you sweep it, you create engagement. And the end, what do you want? You want the investor to say, wow, very capable team, interesting problem. You know what? I want you to meet my partner, Ben. Let's have another call. That's the goal, not to get a no. So you always need to ask yourself, what crucially is necessary? How can I create this interest that they want to give me the second meeting? What must be in the conversation? Oftentimes, you know, I speak with founders and they encounter probably 3, 4 problems. And they will take me to the story through each problem and will tell me the whole history of the, no, big risk. Speak about the main problem, have in the appendix, what other problem you might be able to solve. And maybe in the Q&A, I will ask you, listen, did you think about this? Nir, great question. Let me tell you what we actually had in mind. And I'll take you to my appendix. And I'll show you some of the problems that I had in mind. So, and why do I say all of this? Because oftentimes, you know, our founders, they start to contact investors when they need the money. Basically, it's becoming peaks. But investment It's not transactional based. It's a relationship based. So you need to be able to cultivate it. So oftentimes, you know what some of the founders that I work with, you know what they do before they start the raise funding, starting the fundraise, what do? They do warm up. I meet Ali, and me and Ali have a coffee. Hey, you know, that's Ali, Pedro recommended we should have a coffee. That's what I've been working with. Is that something industry you are in? Yes, great. So when I will raise, I probably will come back to have another conversation. So I plug the plans. And I start to cultivate the relationship. Super important. Don't think in peaks. Nobody likes to think about themselves like, I'm the bank, come to me, I'll take money. They invest in you. It's a people business. And then what's happening is that when you get to the pitch, you actually have your deck. Okay, now I'm already speaking and some of you skimming what it's written on the deck. And basically what's written on the deck is what I'm telling you. The moment you fulfill you fill your deck with text, what's happening? Immediately, I start to read it. So when you come to the meeting, ask yourself, what do you want me to do as an investor? You want me to read or to listen to you? My recommendation, you want them to listen. Remember advice number 2? You are the presentation. If you are the presentation, they need to focus on you. The presentation can be my supportive material. Doesn't need to be the material. So my recommendation, avoid slide document. Basically, you wrote everything in Notion, in Word, or whatever, and you do copy-paste to the presentation. If that's the case, why do I need the meeting? Send me the presentation. Do you like to read a lot of text when someone asks you for something? Yes or no?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so we have someone say yes, majority said no. Few said no. And that's why I want to tell you, I would recommend you to have 3 deck types. Again, I'm telling you, what I'm saying sounds a lot. I don't think it's a lot. When you prepare for fundraise is a brutal process. You're going to speak to 70, 80, 90 investors, the one that answer your email. Okay? I'm not talking about the one that will ignore you. So you need to be ready for it mentally. So my recommendation, 3 types. 1, executive summary pitch. 2nd, call pitch. 3, email pitch. In a second, I will explain you. And why do I say executive summary? How long do you think investors take in order to read your pitch, to go through the presentation? How much time? Yes?
2 minutes?
2 minutes.
90 seconds.
90 seconds.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay, so they take a bit more. 242. Okay, a bit more. So my question to you, do you think that in 242, they actually really understand what you do? If they review it, by the way, if they review it before the meeting. Most likely no. So the moment you send all the deck, you might jeopardize your possibility to actually get the yes in the second meeting, because maybe something was misunderstood. Maybe you wrote the information not in the, maybe they are missing the context. So you're actually losing before you even start. So my recommendation is that when you are being asked, hey Pedro, please send me the deck before our meeting. Hey Nir, please find attached executive summary pitch. And I'll be happy to guide you through the whole pitch while we are meeting. So I'm not telling Nir that I send him the pitch. I tell him executive summary, so he will know that I'm not ignoring his request. Very important in terms of communication. So what are those 3 types? Executive summary oftentimes will have problem, solution, market, why now? A very important slide. Metrics, if relevant, and team. Call pitch should be much more visual, because who is the presentation? You. You are the presentation, so they need to focus on you. And then the email pitch is much more elaborated. I can tell Pedro, listen, send me your pitch. I want my partner Ben to review it. Ben never met Pedro. He doesn't have any context. The email pitch need to deliver all the information that Ben needs in order to understand what you are doing. That's why it's much more elaborated. And that's why it's built in a way that actually Ben can understand everything. Now, in the last few years, there is kind of a development of it or a twist of it that more and more startup writing a memo, investment memo. Have you heard about investment memo? Yes or no? Yes, whispering. I want to tell you something about myself. I have few skills, but one that I'm missing is reading other people's mind. I'm still working on it, but it doesn't work that well so far. So one of the things that started to be happening is that founders writing investment memos. Highly recommend you to do it. 10 pages, Word document, okay? 10 pages that you actually write through everything. Now, not only that it will help you see the loophole in the information, you know what you are doing for the, do we have someone that work in VC? Yes? No? Okay. You know what you are actually doing? Every time you're meeting an analyst, you know what they do? They write deal memo. The moment you write the memo, you already did half of the work. It's just that this time, you actually phrase it in a way that's super clear because you worked on that. Trust me, you will work on your memo much more than the analyst, for that matter. So the moment you take the time to write the memo, you actually give them the opportunity. And then come the 7 advice. I hope you are not suffering too much. The practice. Most of you will take time to practice pitch. And by the way, you should do so. Any chance you know who this person, Jim McKelvey? Most of the people know Jack Dorsey as the founder of Square, but Jim McKelvey and Jack Dorsey started it together. And you know what they did? They had in their pitch the 140 reasons slide that Square won't work. Think about it. They enter to the room and they tell the investor why Square is going to fail. Now, what did they achieve by doing that? First, they showed the investor they thought basically on everything that can go wrong. Second, they engaged the investor with a potential solution because they tell them, listen, you maybe need to look at this and this and this. So knowing what your potential pitfall is very important. And that's why one of the things that I oftentimes do when I work with founders is that we work on Q&A. Because the moment you shy away from the question that I ask you, trust me, I will double down on that. It's like you're trying to hide something and I want to know what. So it's much better to be prepared and you are smart enough to know that what some of the questions you are being asked. And I want to tell you the story of Michael Phelps. You know the story with the 2008 butterfly swim? Any chance someone know? So in 2008, Michael Phelps jumped into the water to the final of the butterfly, okay? The moment he touched the water gets into his goggles. Now, if he touched the goggle, basically he disqualified. So what does he do? He continues swimming with water in the goggles, basically blind. He cannot see how he actually swims. And he ended up winning the gold medal, breaking the world record. And when they interviewed him, they asked him, how was it to actually swim without actually seeing? The answer that he gave was exactly as I imagined it. What people don't know is that he used to practice in the swimming pool with water in his goggles. So when it happened in real life, in situation, he was actually trained. And you need to be able to do the same. The questions that investor will ask you, you need to be ready for them. So try to map them, your experience, with common questions, and be ready for them, and pay attention. The potential question that you might be asked, not the challenges that you think. It's not enough only the challenges, but also the questions that common sense. If you are very smart people, if you would ask yourself, what are some of the pitfalls? Think about those questions, and obviously the more you will pitch, you will have. Remember what I told you, the pitch doesn't end in the call, it ends in the reflection. The moment you will start to map the question, you will have an Excel. Which question I get on my market? Which question I get on my operation? Which question I get on my finance? You will be much smarter in that way. But the most important thing that I want to tell you is that you need the answer because you need the answer. Building in startup is brutal. It's probably one of the hardest things someone can choose to do in life. So if you're already going to put time, effort, and energy, resources, make sure that at least you think about where will be the pitfall and have a potential plan, not for everything, because startups work in uncertainty. Obviously, you cannot know everything, but at least you have, okay, what happened if competition entered to my market? What do I do then? And that's an obvious question that you need to ask. The question, are you planning for it? It's basically mitigating the risk that you might have. Now, even though we spoke about storytelling for mainly funding for that matter, I want you to understand that the moment you work on the story and you start with the basic advice that I gave you, pitch is the way you understand what you do, and more importantly, the way you communicate it, you will gain clarity between founders. It's incredible for me to see how that I have 2-3 founders that everyone pitched the company totally different. And not totally different approach. Oftentimes it's different missions without even understanding. So you will have founder alignment. It's definitely influenced the culture. If you as founders don't know what are you solving, why you expect your employees to know? So the moment you work on your storytelling, you actually align it to the whole culture. And obviously, it will help you in sales. Because remember agility in mindset about the way you pitch? It has a lot of practicality in the sales process. You just need to understand what you need to bring to the sales process. So quickly, pitch is the way you understand and communicate. Pay attention, communicate. Not only the way you understand what you are doing. Do this exercise. Try to pitch it to someone, see if they understand. You are the presentation, not the slides. Slides are your help. One size does not fit all, okay? Pitch is not a phone call. It's an end-to-end process, relationship-based. Don't overload. Just don't get the no. Not in the first meeting. And then simplify information for delivery and practice Q&A. Cannot stress how important are those things. I'm a big believer in that. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And let me tell you something. It's probably one of the hardest things to achieve. Simplicity. It's very easy to speak for 45 minutes about your market. Can you do it in less than 2 seconds? 2 minutes, for that matter? Much harder. So before I move to the second part, I'm interested, maybe we can take 1 or 2 questions and then I'll move to the second part. Meanwhile, it also will give me a break for water. 1 or 2 questions? Yes.
I've heard so much conflicting advice about how many decks you should have. Can you just speak a little bit more to that? It almost sounds like you just need appendix slides to like address different investor needs, and could you still just have like the same concise slide deck up front, or do you really think you should have fundamentally different stories to tell different investors?
So first of all, let me tell you something. When it comes to innovation and startup, you will always hear conflicting advice all the time. Second, I'll tell you what my perspective. If let's assume we'll take everything you do and we'll put it into a deck, okay? For that matter, think about it as one deck. It's just that for every topic, I might have 3 slides. For if I need to send it in an email, I will have the problem much more elaborated. If I need to show it in a pitch, I will have 1 sentence. So if you want to think about it physically, digitally, I recommend to have 3. The executive one, that will be super concise, 1 sentence, 3 bullet points, covering the main important problem, solution, maybe market, why now, metrics, and the team. 6 slides, that's it. That's my opinion. Pitch, have the investor pitch. Problem, solution, product, market, go-to-market, business model, scalability. If you are in a regulated market, be ready to answer regulation, etc. Okay, and then have the email pitch or memo. And in my opinion, that's sufficient. Now, you can have in the appendix 200 slides. Because the moment, that's exercise that I do with the founders a lot. Every time they bring me a question, I tell them build a slide on that. Not because I'm a big believer in slides. Because the moment you put it on the slides, you need to build structured answer. And you need to pitch it to me. So I'll tell you about your finance, I don't need to see your Excel sheet in the pitch. But if I ask you about your finance, you tell me, Nir, great question. Let me show you our projection for 18 months, 24 months. Great. You have it in the appendix. You are ready. But pay attention. Don't be ready for the sake of just being ready. That's why it's very important to map the questions. You need to ask yourself what people might want to know. If you heavy operation, make sure that in the appendix you will have how the operation look like from customer point of view, from the backend point of view, and maybe from the, if you are B2B2C. So you have few operation levels. Does that answer your question? And that's my perspective and my experience. Remember that everyone that talk to you, speak to them from their experience, and some founders will tell you don't need a deck. Which, by the way, oftentimes it's a good exercise. When it comes difficult for the listener, normally in the how it works, then you have much more information to show. Great, thank you. More question? Yeah.
For startup telling, are you gonna kind of talk about, I think you mentioned in the storytelling in the beginning, like how you might want to open up your pitch. Is that where we're gonna be going?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Quick question about the memo. Is this something that you would consider sending whenever an investor asks you, can you send, like, email me your pitch deck, and you're gonna send them a 10-page memo at the same time?
No. Here is a great question. What's your name?
Karim.
Karim?
Yes.
So Karim, it's a great question. Here's my process for this. Let's assume I meet you for the first time. We have a call planned for next week. You ask me, Nir, send me your deck. Hey Karim, looking forward to our conversation. Here is our executive summary deck. 6 slides, I'm sending it to you. We had a meeting. I pitched you my pitch. After the meeting, you tell me, Nir, love your project. I want to show it to Pedro, my partner. Send me your deck. Then I can send you my memo. Because he needs to be able to read and understand everything I do without meeting me. I don't want to bombard him, but you already probably took the decision, because if you want to see more elaborated one, probably you want him to get a better decision. And by the way, oftentimes founders think all the time that they need to just deliver answer. No, founders also need to be able to ask questions. So I have a lot of founders that they meet investor and the investor tell him metrics is not sufficient. What is their answer? Thank you. No, Nir, what sufficient is? When you will feel that we're hitting the bar, that it's becoming interesting to your fund. What is sufficient? It's very objective. So the same I can do, hey Karim, listen, we worked on memo, which much more elaborated, but I don't want to tire Pedro with the information. Would you prefer me to send you the full memo, or would you like the deck that I showed you in our meeting? Great. I want you to know I'm ready for whatever you will ask me. Make sense?
Yeah.
Great. So, obviously it's very difficult for me to kind of go through the whole pitch with you now and to tell you in 20 minutes the storytelling, but I want to give you kind of few examples. One of the things that I saw that work very well when it comes to storytelling is clarity of mind. Okay? You know what you are doing, you know how you pitch it. It went very fast. Clarity, a very good flow between problem, solution, product, etc. Visual information, really love visual information. Presentation style, by the way, you know, if you pitch like this, like, I work sometimes with founders, like they have amazing business, but especially in early stage, they want to see fire. I'm going to go, because, you know, founders need to be crazy enough to say, I'm going to change the industry. So you need to be able to kind of transmit it. And by the way, if you do it over Zoom, Nir, we identify 3 problems. 1, 2, use visual cues. Don't speak like this. Nir, we identify 3 problems. 1, 2, 3, 4. Engagement. So it's very important. And all of it, you need to wrap with emotions. So we have the investor deck. I'm not going to speak about everyone, but every part, but I'm going to speak about the opening and the closing, okay? In the opening, I want to add two things. Context, the intro, I see that I have a typo, the problem, the solution, okay? And then in the closing, I tell you a few things that I think might work, why now, and closing with the vision, okay? Remember, the first moment they meet you, I want to build the trust, I want to set the vision, and when I finish the call, I want to make sure that it will be impactful enough so they want to have the call again. So, what do you think make a strong opening?
Telling background. Telling background.
Background, okay?
Ask daily question that the investor facing that relates to our product or solution.
Ask a question
Yeah.
for the investor, okay? You raise your hand,
Yeah, I think casting a vision about how you're going to change the world.
okay? Vision,
Maybe like a story that also incorporates why you're the right person to
Okay.
solve the problem.
why I'm the right person, story.
What's your connection to the problem?
Okay, what's your connection to the problem?
Why you're particularly excited about talking to them specifically.
A what?
Why you're excited to speak to them specifically.
Why I'm, okay, good. Why I'm speaking to this VC?
An inspiration that they agree with, like a
Okay.
fact, like relevant to them.
Inspiration that might be aligned with what they are trying to achieve. Okay, great. Let me give you some ideas, and many of the things you mentioned are relevant. So, strong opening creates emotional connection. Maybe they relate to my vision. It introduces the problem. It's brief and impactful. I don't need to be too complicated over here. It's established trust. Maybe I tell about my background. Establish relevance. Why are we here? Previews the solution, and reflects authenticity and passion. And I want to tell you something about authenticity and passion. Today, I was fortunate to attend one of the classes over here, and the founder spoke about, at the end of the class, how important was the mission that they had. And without the mission, they almost lost the business. And when we went to lunch, he spoke how the mission was so crucial for their recruiting process, and actually making sure that they also find the right people, also in terms of investment. Okay, and why do I say that? Because, and I like the quote, an entrepreneur without a drive is just unemployed. Remember, startups are brutal, so they need to know you are there for the long run. Okay, so the context. It helps the listener immediately understand the broader impact and the ambition of what you have. The intro, I think Karim mentioned it. Tell a story of a personal experience. What led me to this problem? And then, obviously, I need to state the problem. And then the solution. What are you? And in a second, I'll tell you the difference. Don't get into the details yet. And then, how it works. Let me give you an example. Okay, this is a real founder that I'm working with. What's your name?
Grace?
Grace. Grace, thank you very much for taking the call with me. I want to tell you, actually, how are we transforming healthcare in Mexico through communication. But I want to tell you actually how I got here, so you will have the context. And why did I choose to leave my career as an executive pilot to pursue this opportunity? So since I was a child, I have been working with my grandparents in their insurance brokerage, balancing my career as a pilot with the help that I give them. Now, I got to take care of all the communication between patients, hospitals, and insurance companies. In 2019, my grandmother got sick and went through a horrible process and became, because of misdiagnosed, and she passed away, okay? 2 years after, I lost my grandfather for a similar reason. This story is not only my story. It's very common in Mexico and many people in our team. So when I lost 2 of my beloved people, I decided I need to leave my career in aviation to solve this problem. While it might seem unlikely for a pilot to enter the medical space, I believe innovation can come from within. And you know what, Grace? When we met doctors, they actually wanted us not to be from the industry, so we can bring fresh perspective. So when we started to work on the problem as a team and we dived into the issue, we identified two main problems. Medical systems are not connected digitally, and medical treatments are not digitized, so there is no medical history. That's why we created the company, okay? Now, what did I do over here? I want to show you. First of all, I set the context, the vision. We are here to solve healthcare through easy communication. So you know what I'm going to talk about. And then I'm telling you, Grace, I know the industry, but I'm not bragging about it. I'm just letting you plant the seed. I've been working in the industry since I was a child. And you know what? I even know the problem because I was the one sitting between patients, hospital, and medical institution. So I'm giving you my insight into the problem. And then it's a personal thing for me. I'm here to solve it. So I don't want you to think that I'm only solving my problem. It's a big problem. Some of our team, pay attention, it's also indicated I chose people that will get excited about my own vision. It's part of the team problem. And then, again, I'm here for the long run. Remember, startups are brutal. Most likely, if you will able to do an exit, it will take you anywhere between 8 to 12 years. They need an 8 of 12 years of roller coaster. Are you able to do that? They need to know you are. Okay, and by the way, again, I will tell you, that's a real story of a founder I'm working with. He left a career as an aviation in order to solve it, and that's his story. That's what he pitches. Okay, pay attention. What did I do over here with the founders? Remember what I told you about shying away from problems or questions? I'm a big believer to bring them and clean them off the table. People think that because I'm a pilot, I have nothing to bring into medical, but I don't see that. Okay, and then the problem. All of this, if I were the founder to pitch it, to practice it, probably would have taken me 1 minute. 1 minute. If I want to be extra with plug in a bit of my professional background, okay, in terms of academic, which companies I worked, 1.5 minutes. But pay attention how much you can achieve in 1.5 minutes without tiring me too much. And then pay attention. I will get back to the team slide, but I want you to know off the bat why I'm here. I can go back to every part of this that I showed you. Obviously, I'm going to dive into the problem, and then I can dive later even to the solution, etc., etc. That makes sense? Yes? Okay. What you want to do is to aim for conversational. And that's why I would say, you know, Grace, many times people ask me, what a pilot need to do in medical? I'm speaking to you. I'm not reading for that matter, from the screen. Very important to be able to have this conversation. So use their name, make it conversational, make a pause. You know, Grace, one of the things that I was surprised is that it's not only my problem. It happens to many Mexicans. We make it personal. So if you want to think about kind of a, if I call it structure, I'm a big believer that kind of starting with the context or the vision. Okay? Not, I'm here to, because we are raising funds. It's not interesting. And then, how I got here. And then, what's the problem, and start. And it should be able, what led you to the story? I think, Karim, you mentioned it. And then, why you? So in his case, it was his personal motivation and experiences. You can also be domain expert. You know, Nir, I've been working in the oil and gas industry for the last 10 years. And one of the things that always surprised me is that suppliers don't have access to. The problem is that, So, I want to tell you something about solution and how it works, because I think it's also something very important. It's not the same. And oftentimes I see founders entering into the room. Okay, so our solution is an app that allows you to, Airbnb is an app Amazon is an app, okay? Etsy is an app, but each one of them is different thing. Amazon is e-commerce for that matter. Airbnb is marketplace. So the first thing you want to do is to tell me, what are you? App is the way you deliver the service. Maybe today you have an app and tomorrow you won't. So for example, in that case, that's why we created XXS. It's a unified digital platform for communication and documentation of medical data that connects patient, doctors, and medical insurance in one place. It allows the digitization of medical data, better diagnosis, and follow-ups. Let me show you how it works. And now I will get into the details. You go to the doctor, you type on WhatsApp, it goes to our system, etc. Think about product, solution and product as the following. You are a fashion company, and the way you do your clothes is handmade. You are a fashion company, and the way you do it is robotic manufacturing. You are a fashion company, and the way you do it is that you outsource it to other countries. Same solution, different way, the way it works. And each one of them will invite different challenges. The same with the car. Let me kind of do quickly to the closing, and then, yeah, we'll finish. Emotional connection, invitation to imagination possibilities. It's highlight the value proposition, reinforce the message, leave question or thought, impactful language, or end call to action. One thing that I will recommend you to close with before you finish, I will always say, because remember that all the market, go-to-market, business model, etc., these are things that we can discuss and quote unquote, I don't want to say argue, but why now? I will always kind of finish, Grace. So far I spoke with you about the market, etc., but let me tell you why now is the right moment to start it in Mexico. And then I can bring the Mexican government allowed a law that give digitization or force digitization of medical data. I will bring behavior. I will bring technological advances, market dynamic or economic factors. My recommendation, choose 3 out of those. And always show that it's the right moment, but not only because you believe it is. Try to back it up with external factors. So let's assume that now I pitch you the ending and I say, Grace, so far I told you why now? But I want to finish. I want to tell you before we kind of finish the call, as an ex-pilot, I've been I've seen firsthand how precise information can be a matter of life or death. In the sky, we rely on accurate data to navigate safely. Now I apply the same principle to healthcare industry. So when people ask me why I left aviation to start a healthcare startup, it's because I truly believe we can make a change in the healthcare in Mexico. It's not just about data, it's about saving life. So imagine a world where everyone has access to the right information, where the journey to diagnosis is shorter, and where lives are saved because we had the right knowledge at the right time. Is that something that will be interesting to take part in? Let me show you quickly what I did over here. So over here, I create urgency. Now it's the time. You need to get with me into this opportunity. I kind of do a strong message and kind of compensate. Remember how I start the pitch? People ask me why an aviation pilot goes into medical. I actually link and show why actually my understanding of data can help me over here. I put the emotional resonance and strong message. Again, I'm here for the long run. I truly believe in what I'm doing. I'm not doing it because it's easy to raise money these days. And 1 year from now, I will leave. No, I'm here to change. Okay? And then I can reinforce the value proposition by doing that, and then project again the vision, and then call for action. I don't ask you if you want to invest. Is that something you would be interested to take part in? And with this, I normally will finish my pitch. You want to leave them with something that is impactful. Not I'm raising $2 million, everyone raising money. So vision plays a big part. So if I kind of wrap up what I just said, I told you about the clarity, the flow, the visual information. I spoke with you about imagining possibilities. Nir, picture this. What will happen if we ta-ta-ta? Impactful language, okay? And one of the things that I think it's one of the things that I think it's important to remember, it's very easy to go to the data, but people don't invest, especially not in early stage. They don't invest in the data. Oftentimes, if you invent the market, there is no market data. So how I can bring data? So you want to make it much more personal, knowledgeable. I build the trust by mentioning my background. I can bring pulling things that can help me show you that I'm the right person. And I'll finish with this. You know, there are a lot of books and a lot of videos and a lot of people that will speak with you about storytelling. I try just to offer you some things that you might be able to do. And I like this quote by Miles Davis, the jazz musician. You have to play a long time to be able to play like yourself. So if you take something from what I did, now practice it, try it, see what works for you. Maybe for you, the story can slightly change because you feel more comfortable. You are the one that's pitching your own visions, not me. So with this, I think we have a few moments for a Q&A. Thank you, first of all. I know it's late and I know you probably want to leave for dinner. We still have time if you want to ask questions.
Are we going to get a copy of the slide deck?
Yeah, I'll send you, you send me an email or I will send you and you can download it.
Okay, thank you.
More questions about fundraising or storytelling for startups? Yes, Grace.
I really like your approach. The other approach that I've seen or heard of is you start with a story of your beachhead cohort. When do you feel like, but that kind of misses the personal aspect of the founder and that's why you would highly recommend this one over the beachhead, or any other thoughts on that?
Listen, you know, I will get to the beachhead in the market slide. Again, especially in early stage, you know, you off the bat, I want them to know that I'm trustable, I'm passionate about it, etc. That's my approach. Because on the pitch market, again, we can have a discussion. Is it true or no? But on your motivation, not necessarily I can have argument. On your experience, I cannot necessarily have argument. I need to listen to you. And then you build it structurally so I can get into the idea. Does that make sense?
That does.
Great. More questions? Yes.
How does this pitch change if you're pitching to suppliers or customers? You're not trying to raise, you're either trying to get customers or you're trying to get someone to supply to you.
Listen, first of all, you know, I think with customers it will be different because customers have a problem. So if you identify the problem, I can start the same. Hey, Nir, you know, I've been working with a lot of manufacturing from you, and one of the problems that I noticed repetitively is X, Y, Z. Is that problem you are suffering from here as well? Yes. Let me tell you what we are doing about it. It's the same. Suppliers will be a bit different because with supplier, probably you need to build the trust that you are capable and they are not going to lose the money. So, you know, I can come and say, listen, you know, what I did in my previous work, I was managing operation, and I've worked with similar suppliers like And what we are looking now is someone that we can do with ABC. And if you need some referrals, I'll be happy to give you. So with supplier, it will be a bit different because you need them. Customer, in a way, they need you. So it's easier. I just need to speak to them with their problems. Because remember one thing, that by the way, it's another mistake that startup founders do. Your solution is not my problem. You know? As Dave McClure said from 500 Startup. It's very important. Oftentimes, founders come and they pitch, you know, my idea is ta-ta-ta. Nobody cares about your idea. People care about their problem. Are you going to solve my problem, yes or no? Specifically as a customer.
Sorry, can I ask a follow-up?
Definitely.
How do you get to this point? Like, we talked this whole session about pitching, but how do you get the credibility to pitch, especially through cold outreach? Or let's say there's a customer whose problem you think you can solve, but how do you get onto that stage? And the same with VCs, for example.
I think, listen, with customers, you just knock on doors. You don't leave them alone, in a way. You try to get one believer that will give you the opportunity, and then you take it from there. VCs, that's why it's very important to get involved in the ecosystem, startup ecosystem. Go to meetups, go to meet founders, have a coffee with them, and then you start, hey, Nir, we are working on this. Any referral or people that you think I should talk to? Remember, it's a relationship based. You need to be able to take the time and invest money to fly to conference, sit for coffee, etc., etc.
Thank you.
I've heard people recommending putting the team slide early in the deck to establish credibility, or else you're just talking and it's like, why is this person talking to me about this problem? Are they an expert in this? I noticed you had team slide at the very end. What are your thoughts on
It's
that?
a great question. And by the way, the founder that I just told you did the same when we started to work. You can introduce the team differently. I can do the same, Nir, after I decided to leave my career as a co-pilot, I actually met, what's your name? Chris. Me and Chris, we met to school, and when I shared with him, at that time, he actually was the CTO of a scale-up startup in Mexico, and he saw that he suffered the same. He saw the same problem, so he decided to leave the scale-up startup after building their product and actually come with me and build the product. I tell the story of you and me, and then in the team slide, I will come and I will speak about your official credential. Chris is an MBA graduate from Harvard. He worked in this company. He's an economics graduate, blah, 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 blah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
More questions?
So on that same theme of you're part of like a co-founding team, what are the most effective ways that like a team comes to you and tries to convince you that they're the right team without taking up too much time and going to like everyone's backgrounds or like everyone's stories? Is it kind of just one person has a story and then you have a slide with everyone's credentials, or are there other models to that?
Listen, it's a great question because now I'm working with the team and I train the 5 founders. 5. Because I'll tell you something, it's very easy to see dynamic. When I ask a question and I see how you introduce it, for example, I tell you introduce yourself and you take 5 minutes and the rest take 1, I know we have a problem over here. So oftentimes I work with the founders how to introduce themselves and link it to the problem. So for example, to the problem and to their colleagues. So for example, I will always work with, if you are a CTO, and by the way, I oftentimes tell the team, remember what I told you about now I'm telling you, remember what I said about preparation for the call? In the pitch, I will ask myself, okay, who are the people that need to be in the call? If you are a VC and you are the partner that focus on product, I will make sure that I have the CTO and the product person. I don't need the finance. But if I know that Ali worked 4 years in finance and he's going to give me a hard time, I will make sure to have the CFO and me as a CEO. That's it. I will come ready. And then in the introduction, just like we did, I will do the same. Let's assume you are the CEO and I'm the CTO. What's your name? Kenny. Okay, so Ali asked me, Nir, why are you here? Listen, Nir, when I studied with Kenny at Harvard Business School, we always wanted to do something. And when he came to me with this type of problem, I decided I have to leave BCG because I saw 1, 2, 3. And I can speak about what motivated me to join you. And in my role in the company, I actually leverage my experience as consultant in operation to actually bring it into practice. So I bring my network, my know-how, etc. And everything that I told you, if I would have practiced it, would have taken me probably 40 seconds.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Nir. Among your clients, when you're giving them this advice, which of these pieces is usually the hardest for them to implement successfully? Like what ends up taking the most time or is the biggest challenge for them?
The hardest part is the articulation of what they do. I go with them, tell me the problem, tell me the solution, tell me how it works. Normally, those are the 3 hardest. To really articulate what the problem is. It's not an easy task. So normally, what takes us the most time is articulating business, the problem, solution, and how it works. Then go to market is much easier. And that's why I often say, you have a co-founder, sit with him, tell them, write down the problem you think we are solving. And then have a discussion. How did you get to this problem? Why did you write this? And see if you are aligned in the problem. And then take the problem to the extreme. What will happen if you have, especially if you have two sides? What will happen if this side didn't exist? Do we still have a problem? Yes or no? Because if not, so maybe you are solving the problem to the wrong stakeholder. That makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the hardest part, you know. And then, guys, I cannot stress how important it is to practice. You need to practice all the time. And one of the things I tell the founders, how long does it take to do the pitch that I'm aiming? 10 minutes in the first call. Every morning you can practice 10 minutes, every morning. Before you start the day, you pitch. You train. And then when we work together, obviously I give them feedback. And then they got to a level when they are good enough in the pitch, I start to bombard them with questions. So we simulate it. So you find your pitch, listen, what's your name?
Clint.
Clint. Listen, Clint, really love your idea. I mean, but I see over here problem with the scalability. How are you going to tackle the regulation? You give me an answer, great. So what are you going to do if this competitor actually decides to launch? Great, I want to see how you jump from these answers. But the basis, Clint, is to really articulate problem, solution, how it works. And on top of that, you build your own story. How did I get to this problem? And you need to be able to say, just like I did over here, in 1.5 minutes. Top. Yes, friends.
On the point of problems, so we saw in your example that in the healthcare startup, it was 2 problems that were listed. Have you seen multiple clients that successfully list out multiple problems as what they're trying to solve? Do you recommend you just really always go with one? Like, when do you feel like it's different?
Great. I think 1 to 2
Max? Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you should not speak about other problems. I think I spoke with one of your colleagues over here. I can later, in the Q&A, actually bring another in the conversation to say, you know, Grace, actually, when we actually worked on that, we saw that the problem is this, but we actually, if we are solving this, we also solve this. But remember, investor meets so many founders that they can get lost in the information. So you need to make sure that you keep them clear in their mind.
Was it a conversation why they couldn't just go with one problem? And then you list it out too?
I mean, in that case, the problem were linked.
Linked, okay.
You know, because there is no digitization, you don't have medical history. So you have to digitize in order to have the medical information. Okay, let's take last question if there is one. Okay, thank you very much.